Ever felt the room go cold the moment you say something, and every eye turns into a spotlight, waiting for you to mess up?
Imagine you could flip that tension into giggles in a split second, turning a sticky moment into a laugh-inducing win.
In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to weapon-grade humor to steer attention away from the awkward, the uncomfortable, or the risky. Stick around. The first tip is so simple you'll be using it today, right after this video.
Hi, I'm your communication coach, the kind of person who has helped CEOs, teachers, and even stand-up comedians keep the conversation on their side.
Humor isn't just for comedy clubs. It's a psychological shortcut that redirects focus, lowers defenses, and makes you memorable. Whether you're surviving a tough question-and-answer session, handling a family debate, or dodging an awkward comment on a video call, a well-placed joke can be your escape hatch. Today we'll break down the science, the structure, and the secret sauce that turns any sentence into a distraction weapon. By the end, you'll have a toolbox of 3 proven humor techniques you can practice right now. First, let's talk about why humor works on the brain. Our brains love pattern recognition, and a punchline creates a surprise resolution loop that releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical.
That tiny hit of dopamine pulls attention away from stress and toward the laugh.
The first technique is the relatable one-liner. It's a 3-beat formula: setup, twist, payoff. The setup gives context, the twist throws in something unexpected, and the payoff delivers a concise punch. Picture a tense budget meeting where numbers are spiraling down.
You lean forward and say, "Looks like our figures are doing the limbo. How low can they go before they hit the floor?" Instantly, the room relaxes, eyes soften, and the focus shifts from fear to a shared chuckle.
The key is that the joke is about the situation, not about anyone's competence, so it feels inclusive. Now imagine a family dinner where a political debate is heating up.
You interject with, "I'm not saying I'm an expert, but my cat just voted no on that argument." The absurdity of a cat voting breaks the tension, and everyone laughs at the silliness instead of the seriousness.
One-liners are quick, low risk, and can be pre-prepared, making them ideal for instant attention redirection. To get comfortable with one-liners, write 3 short jokes that relate to the environments you spend most of your time in: your office, your home, your online community. Say them out loud a few times until they feel natural. Then, when the moment arrives, drop the line with confidence. Notice how your body language changes. Shoulders relax, voice softens, and the audience mirrors that ease. The second technique is the self-deprecating spin, a subtle way to lower the power gap by laughing at yourself. Vulnerability builds trust, and when you acknowledge a flaw in a light way, people lower their defenses. The rule of thumb is to keep it light, avoid undermining your competence, and tie it to the current topic.
Picture yourself on stage, heart racing, and you say, "I'm terrified of public speaking. My last attempt made the microphone scream, 'Help.'" The audience instantly sees you as human, and their anxiety melts away.
In an online meeting, you might add, "My internet's slower than my morning coffee, so if I freeze, just imagine I'm doing a dramatic pause." Both examples turn potential embarrassment into a shared joke, making the audience more receptive to what you have to say next. To practice, think of a recurring flaw. Maybe you're always late, or you forget names, or you spill coffee on yourself. Write a short line that acknowledges it without sounding like an excuse. Then sprinkle it into conversations when the mood feels tense. The goal is to use self-deprecation as a bridge, not a wall. Now that you have a taste of the first 2 tools, you're probably wondering how to choose the right one in the heat of the moment.
That's where the third technique comes in, but we'll dive into that next. What do you think? Let me know in the comments.
The third tool in this humor-based toolbox is what I call the absurd exaggeration, a technique that takes a tiny kernel of truth and stretches it to a comically impossible extreme. The brain is wired to notice anomalies, and when you present a wildly over-the-top version of the situation,
it snaps out of the seriousness and lands squarely in the realm of the ridiculous.
Think of it as a mental trampoline. You bounce the conversation up, let it soar, and then bring it back down with a gentle laugh that redirects attention. Why it works is simple. When you exaggerate, you create a cognitive dissonance that forces listeners to reconcile the gap between reality and the absurd.
The moment they do that, The original tension dissolves because the mind is now occupied with the very strange image you just painted.
Moreover, the absurdity signals that you're not taking the moment too seriously, which invites others to relax and follow your lead. The structure of an absurd exaggeration is threefold. First, you state the factual premise that sparked the tension.
Second, you amplify a single element of that premise to a ludicrous degree.
Third, you deliver a punch that ties the exaggeration back to the original context, often with a self-aware nod that you're intentionally over the top. The key is to keep the exaggeration obviously impossible, so it lands as a joke rather than a false claim. Let's see it in action. Imagine you're in a project meeting and the deadline just got moved up by a day. The room feels like a pressure cooker. You could say, "Great. So we have 99% of the work left to do in 24 hours, which means I'll be living on coffee and sheer willpower until the sun decides to rise again tomorrow." The absurdity of living on pure willpower and the image of the sun making a decision pulls the focus away from the tight deadline and replaces it with a shared grin.
The team now sees the challenge through a lighter lens, which can actually improve problem solving because anxiety has been lowered.
In a family gathering where a heated debate about politics is spiraling, an absurd exaggeration might sound like, "If we keep arguing like this,
the house will start shaking, and the walls will file for divorce before the dessert even arrives."
The image of walls filing legal paperwork is so outlandish that it forces everyone to pause, laugh, and realize how far the conversation has gone off the rails.
The tension diffuses, and you open a pathway back to a more civil discussion.
Even in an online chat, where tone can be easily misread, a quick, absurd spin can save the day. Suppose a colleague posts a terse message about a missed deadline.
You could reply, "Looks like my calendar decided to take a vacation to the Bahamas, so I'll be sending you the report via carrier pigeon once I'm back from the beach."
The absurd carrier pigeon image lightens the mood, acknowledges the slip without blame, and keeps the conversation moving forward. Now that you have all three techniques, relatable one-liners, self-deprecating spins, and absurd exaggerations, the next question is how to decide which one to deploy in the heat of the moment. A useful mental shortcut is to ask yourself three quick questions. Is the situation time-sensitive? If yes, a concise one-liner is your best bet because it's swift and requires minimal setup. Is the audience skeptical or hierarchical? If you need to bridge a power gap, lean into self-deprecation. It humanizes you and builds trust. Is the tension high stakes or the atmosphere overly serious?
Then reach for the absurd exaggeration to break the rigidity and invite laughter.
Practice is what turns these concepts from theory into instinct. Take a notebook or a digital note and jot down 3 scenarios you commonly encounter, perhaps a quarterly review, a family dinner, and a virtual team stand-up. For each scenario, write one example of a one-liner, one self-deprecating line, and one absurd exaggeration. Then rehearse them aloud, paying attention to timing, tone, and facial expression. Record yourself if you can. Watching the playback helps you see whether the joke lands naturally or feels forced. Another effective drill is the switch-up exercise. Pair up with a friend or colleague and role-play a tense exchange. After each line, the other person must respond with a humor technique of their choosing. Switch roles after a few rounds.
This rapid-fire practice forces you to think on your feet and become comfortable with the rhythm of humor as a deflection tool.
Remember, humor is not a magic wand that erases all conflict. It's a strategic pause button that gives you and your audience a moment to breathe, reset, and re-engage with a clearer mind. The goal is to use it responsibly, never to mock, belittle, or dismiss genuine concerns.
When applied with empathy, humor becomes a bridge that guides attention away from the prickly edges of a conversation and toward a shared human experience.
Let's recap the 3 tools we've covered. First, the relatable one-liner, a quick, pre-crafted joke that taps into a common experience and instantly shifts focus. Second, the self-deprecating spin, a humble admission that lowers barriers and builds rapport, especially useful when you need to connect across status differences.
Third, the absurd exaggeration, a vivid, over-the-top image that snaps the brain out of seriousness and invites laughter.
By mastering these, You'll have a versatile arsenal for navigating awkward moments in any setting.
Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these techniques resonates most with your daily life?
Have you already tried a one-liner that saved a meeting, or perhaps a self-deprecating remark that broke the ice at a family dinner?
Drop a comment below and share your story. Reading your experiences helps us all refine these skills together. If you found this walkthrough useful, a quick tap on the like button lets the algorithm know you appreciate practical communication tips.
And if you want more insights on turning everyday challenges into opportunities for connection,
consider subscribing so you won't miss the next episode where we dive into body language cues that amplify the impact of humor. Your support fuels more content that helps you turn sticky situations into win-making moments.
Finally, remember that humor, like any skill, improves with consistent practice.
Set a small goal for the coming week. Insert at least one one-liner into a routine interaction. Sprinkle a self-deprecating line into a presentation. Or unleash an absurd exaggeration during a tense discussion.
Observe how the atmosphere shifts, note the reactions, and refine your approach.
Over time, you'll find that redirecting attention with humor becomes second nature, allowing you to navigate conflict with confidence and a smile.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, where we explore how storytelling can further boost your persuasive power.
Keep laughing, stay curious, and keep turning those awkward moments into opportunities for connection.